So it now tells you it's recording. So just a few things to position us to what we've been up to over the last 18 months or so. Many of you who know me personally will know that my background was learning and development for many years before I kind of came into being within Actus. And we've naturally, I think, due to the pandemic, branched out into that area because we found that people needed lots of content in that area. I started doing really regular webinars. And actually we still do webinars. We're doing 4 this month in June. So just making you aware of those, because actually sometimes we have as many as 300 people sign up for these webinars. They've become really quite popular, but I'm not certain how well known they are within our customer base. So we've got lots of stuff in terms of learning information, thought leadership resources. I think many of you know that we have those sorts of information on the website. We do try to send out a monthly mailer which will tell you what that new thought leadership is, so you're aware of it. We've branched out into learning because some of you will know from the new functionality that's been made available to you within Actus that now there is e-learning available to do with the system. So when you've got new starters, if you want to be able to use it, so you can access that. So we've turned on a small segment of our LMS. Some of you are even working with the LMS. So we now have an LMS which is available to us. And of course, that's allowed us to branch out into developing some e-learning. So we have a handful of e-learning courses. We're not going to become an e-learning provider, but we do also have some partners that we are providing resources through. So that's maybe something to let you know about if you have an interest in that area. We won't deep dive into that on this session, but do let us know if you want to know more about it, because I realise that having a fully integrated one platform for people in the area of performance management and learning is advantageous. The other thing that we've done, which has been, I found really the benefit of actually tech allowing us to do this, is we've started doing an awful lot of training. So hybrid management training. So I've been working with Rachel. We've done some training with XPS and other clients, and we do open courses. So we've done quite a lot on management training, which of course supports the system piece. So that's the sort of thing that we've been doing, which is a slight, I suppose for me, it's going full circle, but it's a supporting element to what we do, which technology has allowed us to, it's become acceptable to do training on Zoom now. And hopefully you'll know enough about me to know that we don't make it death by PowerPoint. We might make it as interactive as we possibly can. In terms of the product roadmap, the vision has always been for us to be more than performance management. The reason for that is I know that the pain points that many people have are about multiple systems, and you want to eradicate paper. You don't want to have loads and loads of logins. So our roadmap for a while, we had, I think the first thing that came out was our 360. So we've had 360 for a number of years. We do have clients on the call who just work with us for 360. Then we brought out talent management. So we have talent management and succession. I mentioned learning, that's the most exciting, the newest, biggest piece. But of course, our compliance, we've got a number of people in financial services that we have a compliance module, which is specifically aimed at SMCR customers, which we're not in that area, don't worry, but it can be used for other areas of compliance. So our, I suppose our vision has been to offer different modules which can make your life easier. You don't have to go out and have multiple systems of that there. So that's something that in the last 12 months really has come to fruition in terms of the talent management was launched properly, compliance has been out for a while, learning management, and we're looking at some enhancements around the HRIS and absence. So that's my headlines there. I'm now going to pass over to my colleague, Adrian, who will take control. And Adrian, while you take control on the screen, I'll just say hi to everybody. So we've got Ruth. Have we got Heather from Sonodine? I can see Ruth. I'm just looking down the chat to say hello to people while we hand over.
I think Heather's either going to be running late or not able to join us today. So it's just myself.
It might be just you, no problem. It's just good for the breakout rooms. Swag is working out who's here and who's not. So welcome Ruth. Rob from USS, hi there. Just seeing where people are. If you I understand not everyone put the cameras on and completely. Rick, you've made it. We had to let you in about 3 times. Always welcome, Rick. Been with us a long time from the University of Suffolk. Ah, Mandy, you're from Age UK. Welcome. So one of our newer businesses. Really great to have you.
Sorry, Katie can't make it. She's had a bit of a domestic issue, so she can't make it. And unfortunately, I have to leave. I've got another appointment, so I do have to leave around 11:30, 11:40. So many apologies, but
right.
I'm glad it's been recorded, and I'll advise Katie, and we'll pick up what we miss.
That's good to know. We'll know that for the breakout groups. Well, Mandy, you're really welcome. I'm glad you were able to come and join us. So we've then got Donna and Steph. Some of you Steph might know some of the customers on here because Steph worked with Actus a few years ago. So really brilliant to have you guys here as customers. Thank you, very welcome. Honey, lovely to have you. I haven't seen you for a while. From Infrared. Rachel will hear more about, and Chris from Bucks NHS. Hi, Chris. I can't see you, but again, probably hard to share screen, is it? Or maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. So anyone else wants to introduce themselves in the chat, please do feel free, and I'll hand over to Adrian. Adrian, are you muted?
Apologies, couldn't find the mute button. Thanks, Lucinda. So hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. As Lucinda said, we want to tell you a little bit about what's been going on, what is going on, what's on our roadmap. And obviously from a roadmap perspective, the question we're always asked, I'm always asked, is what's on the roadmap? And we're going to tell you a little bit about that. But to begin with, we're just going to have a very short intro, really, where we talk about not so much what is on the roadmap, but the question of why. You'll know the expression "start with why," and really it's super important for us to always start with that question. So when we're talking about, when we think about what should be developed in Actus, what features to add, what functionality to add, what improvements to make, the whole point of it is to know how we can help you. And therefore, input from you guys, feedback from you guys, your ideas even are really important for us in putting that together. And of course, we want to do things that are useful to you, that actually make a difference to you and your organization. And some of those things might be about achieving certain things. A lot of it's about removing pain points, as Lucinda was saying, and also about making change happen. We're very aware that in your roles, you're very often tasked with implementing new projects, new processes across the business. And that change process is a challenging process. What can the software do to at least make that easier and to support you? So what we're going to talk about just initially is some themes. Instead of actual features and functionality, I'm just going to take you through some of the themes that we are working on, how we group together the work that we do. Now, this isn't all encompassing, but these are sort of 5 strong themes that we recognize that we're able to support through the development of Actus software. So saving time, visualizing things, learning, your own learning, the learning of the organization, measuring, a lot of measuring and collaboration. So we're just going to talk very briefly about those. And later on, we'll talk about some more specific things that are going on. So firstly, from a saving time, now obviously from saving time, we all want to save time, I'm sure. And some things are naturally, they take time. So there's lots of things that we do admin-wise, which are repetitive. Some of those things, the legwork, some of it can't be removed. But what can we do from a software perspective to make that easier to save time on those repetitive tasks? Similarly with reporting can be one of those repetitive things. It can be something where you're bombarded with requests for data, or getting the right data takes time. How can we save you time with those things? And that's some of the work we've been doing recently. We'll talk a little bit later about dashboards. That's one of the driving forces for the dashboards work, is to make it easier and actually just faster for you to get data, key data points from Actus. Communication, again, a time-consuming task. The system already, as you'll be aware, has lots of kind of automated email notifications, etc. There are places where we've added recently, and we are adding additional tools for that to make it a little bit easier. So there's a few things around there. Hopefully that's an important theme for you. It's one that we like to focus on. Visualization. Now, again, with the dashboards work, there's another aspect of it. There's an aspect of systems like Actus where you have an awful lot of data. Not just Actus, you have data in lots of other systems as well. Getting information from that data, not just the raw data itself, can be problematic and time consuming. Particularly then, communicating it to colleagues can be a challenge. So what can Actus do to help you sort of visualize status, visualize progress, visualize success, outcomes, and progress, and use those things to communicate to colleagues, whether that's to encourage people, whether it's to report upwards, lots of reasons for that. Now, learning, Lucinda's talked a lot about what we have done recently as a business in terms of moving towards doing more training, etc. We recognize as a key task for our customers, particularly around ensuring that mandatory training is done, whether it's a formal compliance requirement or just mandatory training that either the whole business, the whole organization, or certain groups have to do. We've also introduced the learning management system, which allows customers to host their own e-learning, and in particular allows the development of a sort of a learning culture, if you like, encouraging personal learning, where employees are able to not just do mandatory training, but to use e-learning and other materials and online training courses to enhance their own learning and development. And as Lucinda mentioned earlier, the idea that training and development is integral to performance management, I think is something that is what you would recognize as part of Actus's philosophy. And from a systems perspective, we want to make sure that you've got options there to encourage people to not just recognize their performance, but to develop themselves through training. So it's another big theme for us. We've done some work on there. There's more work going on. Measurement, obviously, this means different things at different times for different organizations, but there's definitely a measurement aspect in what we do. And again, this comes back to this idea of visualizing data, but it's also about the accuracy of data and what you're measuring. We want to understand the types of things you need to measure so that we can produce easy ways of doing that. And one of the interesting things about that is measuring sort of outcomes and outputs. And again, when we talk about learning outcomes rather than learning activity is a difficult thing to measure. So we're interested in helping you guys of discovering ways of helping with that. And then finally, collaboration. Now, you'll know in this time of virtual working, we've all learned to collaborate in new ways using digital tools. And that's not quite what Actus is aiming to do. We're not going to be a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom, but actually, if you look at what customers are using Actus software for, there is an awful lot of collaboration going on, particularly around objectives, particularly in the idea of teams and managers working with their teams and teams working with each other. So some of the work that's been going on recently and is ongoing, particularly around objectives, recognizes the collaborative aspect of working together using Actus software. So I'll tell you a little bit more later about what's happening with objectives or some of the things on the roadmap. But again, we're interested to know if there are ways in which collaboration in your business, in your organization, can be facilitated better through Actus software. So again, as Lucinda mentioned, this is about really us getting feedback from you. We want to be driven by you. We want to understand the why before we determine what we're going to build. So we would really like to know, and we're just going to have a short poll. We'd like to know from you today, if you were to pick perhaps two of these 5 themes, or perhaps something else entirely, which of these probably would you want Actus to help with? Maybe all of them, but if you're able to pick 2, then that would be great. If you choose the something else, please do note that in the chat if you wouldn't mind. If there's something specific in your mind that actually you'd want Actus to help with, then please do tell us in the chat. It'd be really useful. What we're going to do a little bit later, I'm going to hand over now, I think, it's going to be Rachel on next. We're going to bring back the results of this to you a little bit later and reflect on that and tell you a little bit about what's going on, hopefully in line with the sort of the weighting, the prioritization of the themes that you've suggested here. So just another 5 seconds if you want to vote. I think almost everybody has, and then we'll wrap up. Great, thank you, Caitlin. If you can end that, that's brilliant. So again, we'll bring that back to you a little bit later, but thank you very much for your feedback.
Great, so thank you, Adrian. So as mentioned, we're now going to